What's up, y'all? What's going on? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See what's coming at you. And today is, you guessed it, more basketball. We are continuing our series of breaking down the standings and the SWAC race as we head to the finish line. I'm gonna do one more of these on Friday after the Thursday games. And then Sunday's show will basically be a SWAC tournament preview. So this is the last time that I'll guess on any of the finishes. So definitely, keep it locked here. My final power rankings for the season will be dropping on bustingbrackets.com this week. So y'all make sure y'all check that out. Link will be in on my socials: Facebook is Swag Talk, Instagram Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Like the video, comment. Feel free to share your thoughts on the SWAC race and who you think gonna come out on top, who gonna miss it, who you think is a dark horse to win the tournament, who gonna flame out, any of that. Feel free to chime in. So let's go ahead and jump into it, man. We're gonna start like we do, like we've done for the last few days doing this, and that's starting at the bottom. We're gonna start at number 12. That hasn't changed. Number 12 is Valley. They are 1-15 at this point. They lost to Pine Bluff on Saturday. They did not have a game yesterday, so they close out their season at Jackson State at Alcorn. Um, they close out at Alcorn on Thursday and at Jackson State on Saturday. I always get that backwards. So they have two games left in their season before their season is done. Obviously, they are out. I don't think they're gonna win either one of these games on the road. So I think Valley will finish in the 12th spot at 1-17, and their season will be over. Number 11 is FAMU. They are 4-13. They have one game left at home against Bethune-Cookman. I think they dropped that game and finished at 4-14 and number 11. This team, I think they have some guys that can play. I don't really like the way they run their offense. I don't really feel like there's a lot of continuity in their offense. Not a lot of ball movement, a lot of one-on-one and taking whatever shot you get. But Lamar and Spear are guys who can definitely put the ball in the basket, and they're pretty athletic as well. So I'm honestly kind of surprised that their season went the way that it did. And like I said, their season will end on Saturday against Bethune-Cookman, and they'll drop their game and finish at 4-14 on the season, and obviously be sitting at home next week. Number 10 also out is Prairie View. They're 5-12. They have one game left against Texas Southern. They'll most likely drop that game, although you can't rule out a rivalry game like that. You never know. But I think they dropped that game and finish at 5-13 and in the 10 spot. That takes us to the last spot basically in the tournament. And right now, Bama State is at number 9. They're 7-9. They have two games left. Thursday against Southern, Saturday against Grambling. They need to win both of these games. I think maybe splitting them and going 8-10 could get you in the tournament because that's definitely a possibility. But I think to be comfortable, you need to finish 9-9, and you need to avoid ties with pretty much everybody that's in front of you. You lose the tiebreaker to Jackson State in case that comes up some kind of way. You lose the tiebreaker. Well, you win the tiebreaker over A&M and Pine Bluff. So you do have that in your favor. Other than that, there's not a lot left for you. I think there's a possibility for this team to win. I don't know about win out, but there's a possibility for this team to split those two games. But right now, I don't see it happening. It can happen, but I don't think it will. There's a lot of guys on this team that I love, and I just don't really understand where this team, where they went wrong at. I can't put my finger on it. It just doesn't make any sense to me that this team is sitting at 7-9, and basically, unless they win out, they're gonna be sitting at home. So, like I said, a split can probably still get you in with tiebreakers most likely, but I think you want to put yourself in as good of an opportunity to get in as you can. So you need to win out if you want to try to get in comfortably. Um, I just, like I said, I looking at what where this team is statistically. They're next to last in scoring offense, so they don't really score a lot of points. And shooting wise, they are last in field goal percentage in conference play, so that's a factor. They actually are a pretty solid defensive team when it comes to field goal percentage. 3-point shooting, they are last as well in conference play. Um, 3-point defense, they're about average. They make they make like 6.3 threes per game, so they are kind of in mix with most teams. So I don't really understand, why they shoot so poorly. But like I said, they really need to, pick up these 2 wins and try to get something going, because right now they're on a losing streak, and they have to end it. You're not gonna, you're not gonna go anywhere if you don't win. So I think they're gonna finish in that 9 spot and miss out on the tournament. And that takes us to right now our number 8 team. That's Pine Bluff. They finished out at Jackson State and at Alcorn. Um, I think they're gonna split these 2 games. Like I said, this is a team that they can shoot the ball extremely well. Um, they are a very good offensive team. They make almost 10 threes per game. They shoot 34% from the 3-point line. That's third in the league. 3-point defense, they actually lead the league in 3-point defense at 25%. So they defend pretty well on perimeter. That's something I kind of discounted on them defensively, but they're numbers wise, they kind of are average defense, but they are a really solid offense. Um, and they score 73 points per game, but they give up 73 as well. So they score and give up points pretty evenly, and that to me is a recipe for disaster. They rebound the ball fairly well, but they give up a lot of rebounds. So they just they're one of those teams that you find they just don't do a lot well. They do have a negative turnover margin, so they do have some problems with turnovers at times. But I think that this team can win one of those 2 games, and I think it's gonna be the Jackson game. I think that's gonna be a game where they can knock down enough shots to get that win, and I think that'll put them at a 9-9 finish. Um, if they lose out and finish at 8-10, depending on what Bama State does, they still can get in. I think they're pretty much comfortably in, barring any kind of ties. They don't have a lot of tiebreakers. They lose the tiebreaker to Bama State, minus 3-point differential. They lose the tiebreaker to Alabama A&M. The only tiebreaker that they have that's in a positive manner is Bethune-Cookman, which I doubt they catch them. They will have to win out, and Bethune-Cookman will have to probably lose out. And they need to beat Jackson State by 14 points or more to win that tiebreaker. So they don't have a lot in their pocket when it comes to rescuing them if they're in a tie. So they need to find a way to get some wins and avoid ties with pretty much anybody that's in front of them, because they don't have a lot of tiebreakers in that manner. But I think they'll get in as the 8th seed at 9-9. I have them finishing tied with Alabama A&M, which would put them in that 8th spot. They're tied right now. Alabama A&M is our 7th spot right now in the standings, tied with Pine Bluff at 8-8. Another team I think is going to split those final 2 games. I think they beat Southern and lose to Grambling. And that puts them at 9-9. They swept Pine Bluff, so they have the tiebreaker right there. That makes for a pretty easy thing. If it's a 2-team tie, they come out on top with that. If there's a 3-team tie with Bama State included in that mix, they still come out as the top dog. No pun intended. Just looking at where they stand against JSU, they lose their tiebreaker. So if they were to finish tied with Jackson State, they would finish below Jackson State because they don't have a tiebreaker there. Other than that, like I said, I counted Bethune-Cookman in the mix. they would win that tiebreaker with a 2-point differential. But I think, a loss, that Bethune-Cookman losing their last game, they will have to win both of their games to finish tied with them. So I don't know if that's going to happen. But right now, I think the Bulldogs are the 7th seed. I think with the tiebreakers they have over the teams that are below them, I think they're pretty solidly in. Unless they don't win another game, then it's going to get iffy. But right now, I think they're a solid team to make it. And I don't know how much of a factor they're going to be when they get in, but they don't really they score about 67 points a game defensively. They're pretty solid. They give up 68. When it comes to offense, they shoot 43% from the field. The opponents, they lead the league in field goal defense at 38%, so they play pretty good defense. Opponents shoot 32% from three. They shoot 30% from three, and they make only 4.2 threes per game, which is the least in the league. They've only made 67 threes. That's 13 fewer than the team that's 11th place, and that's Prairie View. So they don't really shoot a whole lot of threes. They really, they are basically, I think they're last in 3-point attempts. So they don't even shoot a lot of threes compared to most teams. So their offense is predicated on getting the ball inside and scoring there, and taking advantage of the size and physicality that they have, the second and rebounding. So that they're definitely a solid team there. And they win the rebound margin in most games. So I think that's where their strength is physicality. And they do have some playmakers, but they are not a team that's gonna outrun you. They're not a team who's necessarily gonna outshoot you. They just kind of trying to figure out how to say this without being pause worthy, but they basically just bang you and make you make the game ugly like that. That's a big pause right there. Number 6 is Jackson State. I think this team is gonna stay at this spot. It's gonna be tough for them to move up. They do have Pine Bluff on Thursday and Valley on Saturday. If they won those 2 games, that would put them at 11-7, which would put them in a nice spot, probably tied with somebody. They win a tiebreaker against Bama State. They lose the tiebreaker against Bethune-Cookman with a minus 10-point differential. They lose the tiebreaker to Alcorn, minus 6-point differential. They lose to Southern 1 game to none because they basically played one time. They lose the tiebreaker to Texas Southern, -1. And they do right now hold the tiebreaker over Pine Bluff because they beat them by 13 the first time they played. So they don't really have a lot of maneuverability. They do own the tiebreaker over Alabama A&M as well. So that can keep them probably where they at. I don't know if they finish in any kind of tie, if they're going to be able to jump up. I think ties are probably going to keep them at 6 or maybe 7. This is a team that's solidly in. Even if they went 9-9, they will still probably be in because I don't think you're going to have 3 teams go 9-9. And the possibility of one of those, the possibility of having Pine Bluff go 10-8 and jump you or whatever. I think JSU's going to stay, where they're at in the 6th spot. But I do think that they'll finish 10-8. I think they'll win 1, lose 1. I think they'll beat Valley, lose to Pine Bluff, and finish at 10-8 and get the 6th spot. That takes us to Bethune-Cookman. Big victories Saturday over Southern kind of gave them a little bit of leeway in the standings. They lost to Grambling yesterday, so that dropped them to 10-7. They only have 1 game left against FAMU on the road. They should win that game because they beat them the first time they played in the first game of the season, and FAMU may have packed it in by Saturday. Now they might have some get up and go in them because it's a rivalry game, but it's also a possibility that this is a team who know they putting up the sneakers after the game, so maybe they check out. Bethune-Cookman, I think either way should be in good shape to win this game. I think they finished 11-7, and right now I think they're gonna finish in the 5 spot. So they are a dangerous team. I think this is a team who I don't, I wouldn't really want to play them early. Obviously in a tournament you got to play somebody at some point, but this is a team I think I would not really want to play in the first round. They score 74 points per game in conference play. Defensively, they give up 72. They shoot 44% from the field. The opponents shoot 43. They shoot 34% from the 3-point line. The opponents shoot 33%. They make about 6 threes per game. So they're not a team that's like great at anything, but they have some guys who can definitely make things happen. Jacoby Hetty, Deshaun Dyson, Zion Horman, who is a guy I love, man. I love that guy, man. That guy can break you down and get to the basket. He can shoot from deep. And that's a guy, if he gets hot, he can go for 25 or 30 in a game if he gets hot. They have big bodies to throw at you as well. And that's, like I said, that's a team who they've had their stumbles, but they have a huge sweep over Southern. So they show that they can beat teams in front of them. They couldn't beat Grambling yet, but they are pretty much in a good spot. I think, like I said, I think they beat FAMU and finish in that 5 spot. If there were any tiebreakers to come up at some point, they do have a tiebreaker over JSU with a plus 10 point differential. They beat Texas Southern the one time they played them. They swept Southern, like I said. They lose the tiebreaker to Alcorn because Alcorn swept them. They lose the tiebreaker to Alabama A&M -2. They lose the tiebreaker to Pine Bluff because they only played once as well. So they don't really have a lot of, if it came to a tie somewhere, they don't really have a lot of maneuverability. But I think right now they're probably they're like the top of the bottom 4. I know that don't really make sense. They could sneak into that 4 spot if something happened, or if TSU got upset, that could drop them. If Alcorn some kind of way stumbled, that could help them. But they are probably up their upper mobility or downward mobility is basically limited. They can finish at worst 10-8. So not a lot of people are gonna jump them. That's below them so I think they're probably in that 4 or 5 spot. I put them at 5 because I think that with the one win they have left, they don't have a lot of maneuverability to move up, and it's kind of tough for a team who I love a lot. Texas Southern is our number 4 team in the standings right now. They're 11-6, lost a heartbreaking game at Alcorn last night, and that game really hurt. That was a game I think if they won that game, that would have had them at 12-5, and they would have been in really good position to get that top spot, get that 2nd spot, because they do have a tiebreaker over Southern, plus 5-point differential. Like I said, they lose the tiebreaker to Bethune-Cookman. They lose tiebreaker to Grambling -1. They do win the tiebreaker over Jackson State, +1, and Alcorn. Alcorn won the season series, so that puts them they split the season series, so Alcorn wins that tiebreaker with a +9 differential, and that puts them in a tough spot to move up much. They only had the one game against Prairie View, so they'll know by the time they play on Saturday what the road to a higher spot means for them and how they get there. So right now, I think they finished at 12-6, and that puts them at the number 4 spot. Alcorn is the number 3 team right now. They're 11-5. They won 7 in a row. When I first started this series, I said that this team would probably go 9-0 to close out the season. I panicked and got scared and changed to TSU in the last show. Braves proved me wrong. They are still on that long winning streak. That's the longest streak in the conference right now. They play Valley and Pine Bluff, 2 games that they can win. They've beaten both teams already. Both games are at home. So, I think that they'll win both of these games and finish at 13-5. The only thing is they they don't have the tiebreaker over Southern. Southern and Alcorn only played the once, so Southern won that game. They don't have a tiebreaker to Texas Southern. They have a -9 point differential. They do win the tiebreaker over Jackson State +6 point differential, and they swept Bethune-Cookman. So I think they're another team who probably not gonna move up much, unless Southern, falters. They're not gonna drop much. Number one, because stranger things have happened. I don't like to count people out, but at worst they probably go 1-1 in these two games, but that still puts them at 12-6, and that puts them in a spot where they probably finish 4 if they finish tied with TSU. So I don't think they'll finish lower than 4. If there was some kind of way to lose both of these games, they hold a tiebreaker over Bethune-Cookman. So even if they finish tied with them, they will still finish ahead of them. That's why I don't think that they'll finish any lower than 4. They still have a shot at the 2 seed. One would be Grambling losing out, and I don't really see that happening. And they don't have a tiebreaker with Grambling anyway, so they really can't finish 1. They can finish as high as 2, and I would say probably no lower than 4. But right now I got them at 3. And that takes us to our number 2 team, Southern. They're 11-5. They got a big victory. As far as for momentum and confidence, obviously, beating the number 11 team is not a big win. But when you've lost 3 in a row, you need to get the wins as you can get them. Right now, Southern's 11-5. They finished out at Bama State on Thursday and at Alabama A&M on Saturday. I'm still not really sold on Southern right now. I think they split these 2 games. They can win them both. They can split them, or they can lose them both. This team, they all over the place. One of the things about this team is they can score. They score. They're an average scoring team, like 69 points per game, but they're a really solid team in terms of scoring defense. They're second at 64.1. Most of the teams they played this season, they held them below their season average. I think their losses are basically the games that they've given up more than the team's scoring average. They are 4th in field goal percentage. They're 4th in field goal percentage defense. They're 3rd in 3-point shooting. They're 5th in 3-point defense. They make almost 7 threes a game. They shoot. They have, I think, the 3rd highest 3-point, the 4th highest 3-point attempts. So they shoot a lot of threes. They make a decent amount. They don't really have a lot of size inside, and that hurts on the boards. They're almost last in rebounding at 30 rebounds per game. But the opponents only have 31, so they typically don't get just dominated on the boards, even though they don't have a lot of bodies inside. Southern's Achilles heel is free throw shooting. And that's why I don't think that this team can make a run. I think they can win a game in the tournament. They're gonna have to get better shooting free throws if they want to win games away from home. They're shooting 66% from the line. That's dead last in the conference. So they have to start to make free throws. They really have to start making free throws, and that has to start on Thursday. You can't have those games where you're shooting 45% like you did last night. Even though you won, you still shot 45% from the free throw line. That's just bad business. But when it comes to tiebreakers right now, Southern has the tiebreaker over Alcorn. They lose the tiebreaker to Grambling. They lose the tiebreaker to Texas Southern -5 point differential. They lose the tiebreaker to Bethune-Cookman. They win the tiebreaker over Pine Bluff and Alabama A&M. Right now, I threw those in there just because you just never know. But right now, Southern's best bet is to avoid ties because, like I said, they don't have a lot of tiebreakers. So with that being the case, unless they finish tied with Alcorn, they're probably gonna finish lower than where they are. They can finish 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, probably because of Bethune-Cookman tiebreaker. they would finish below them. If they finish tied at 11-7, Southern would probably finish fifth. Like I said, I don't, I don't really think this is a team that can go on a run. I mean, they can. I mean, they won 7 games in a row, so it's not like they can't win games consecutively. But until this team gets better at shooting free throws, it's tough for me to really feel confident in picking them in a lot of games. So right now, I do think they split these games and finish at 13. Finish at 12-6, and that would put them at the 3 seed. Well, in this case, I got them at 12-6, number 4, because I got them finishing tied with Texas Southern. So they would finish below the Tigers at 12-6. So right now, Southern will probably drop from 2 to 4 if they split these games. And they would probably play Bethune-Cookman, who is a very bad matchup for them in the first round. And that takes us to our number 1 team, Grambling. They are 13-3. They have 2 games on the road against the Bama teams, Alabama State on Saturday, but Alabama A&M on Thursday. I think they win those 2 games. They finish 15-3, win the regular season. And I have the Tigers winning the tournament championship. So that takes all the drama out of it. But if we had, this was the first round started today. Grambling would play Pine Bluff in the first round. Texas Southern, Alcorn would play Alabama A&M in the first round. Texas Southern would play Jackson State, and Southern would play Bethune-Cookman. So those are some pretty solid first round matchups. If Southern found some kind of way to get past Bethune-Cookman, they would have a third matchup against Grambling, and that could be the second time in 2 years that Grambling has sent them home. So there's a lot of good games if the standings stay like this and they work their way out like I predict. But like I said, we'll be back on Friday to break down the standings after Thursday's action, and then on Sunday we'll have a tournament preview. So Thursday will be the last time I do this type of show. And then from Sunday on is SWAC tournament time, my favorite time of the year. And we'll see who goes dancing at the end of all of this. So with that being said, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC Seawells, signing out, and I'm going to catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.